which brings us on to green. Last colour before we get into the real funky stuff. So we're going to start things off here with Battle Mammoth. Some people are really, really high on this card. And I'm looking forward to playing it because I'm not quite as high as them, but I do think this is really quite good. 5 mana, 6/5 with trample at a base rate, sure. More importantly, it can foretell for 4, which means I imagine most of the time you are casting this on turn 4 if you didn't have a 2-drop. So 4 mana, 6/5 with trample sounds a lot better. Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability your opponent controls, you may draw a card. Can we please stop stapling draw a card onto every green mythic? Please. This thing is bananas. Like, you just can't kill it without trading down on card advantage. It's huge. It has a massive butt. It hits you like a truck. And this triggers off of like sagas and stuff like this. It also triggers off of you targeting other permanents. Like, if my opponent has a Battle Mammoth in play, I can't Elspeth Conquers Death their Planeswalker without them drawing a card and still having a Battle Mammoth. The only thing I think that holds this back is if you cannot regularly cast it for 4 mana. Because at 5 mana, it's kind of having the same problem as Elder Gargaroth in the fact that it's really slow, and this is much worse against aggro than Elder Gargaroth is. It is definitely clunky. So I think a lot of the power of this mythic, if it's going to be good, is going to be in more grindy mid-range matchups, and if that's the commonplace thing you're expecting in the format, because this card matches up way better against removal than Elder Gargaroth, but matches up so much worse against aggro than Gargaroth does. And those are the two big keyword soupy 5 mana green mythics that are currently in standard. So that's kind of the comparison that I'm going to draw. I think if we're in an aggressive metagame, you're going to want Gargaroth. If you're in a controlling metagame, you're going to want Battle Mammoth. Nonetheless, this card is good, and the targeted by a spell or ability thing, why do you draw so many cards? Please stop drawing cards. This has been my TED Talk. Goodbye, Battle Mammoth. What do we got next? Blessing of Frost. I haven't actually looked at this card. It got leaked very early, so I deliberately avoided it. Is this better than Garruk's Harbinger? I'm not even sure, you know. I'm really not. Blessing of Frost, 4 mana sorcery. Distribute +1/+1 counters equal to the number of snow you spent on this. Draw a card for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. So this thing sucks. I just hadn't actually read it until just now. So yeah, don't buy that. Doesn't seem great. Also good. What makes this good? This seems awful. Like, I would love to be wrong about this, but a 4 mana sorcery that is blank if you don't have a board already seems pretty crap to me. Yeah, but Conclave Mentor does not need a 4 mana sorcery to help it. It just wants cards that you already want to play. The power of Conclave Mentor and Winding Constrictor is playing creatures that you're just happy to have in your deck by themselves if you draw them, not a piece of 4 mana garbage. It does draw me cards if I'm already winning. But my Conclave Mentor deck doesn't need to draw cards because the best card advantage it will ever get is my opponent dying with cards in their hand. And I don't really... If I want to draw cards, I'll play a Battle Mammoth. Like, if I want to draw cards, I'll just play Battle Mammoth. Okay, anyway. Canopy Tactician here is kind of interesting. We start seeing some of the Elf cards we were talking about now. 4 mana Elf Warrior here, 3/3, interesting rate. It's a Lord. 4 mana is a lot for a Lord, but it also taps for 3 green. This card's kind of flexible. I don't think it's good for what it's worth. I think it's a bit too expensive to be good. But it does do a bit of both things. So maybe that's fine. We kind of need to see what direction elves want to be going in, but I think given they have a powerful planeswalker on 4 mana, this probably just isn't quite good enough. I don't think. These are not good. Let's look at this one. The War Master, I think, is very, very cool. So let's take a look at Elvish War Master. Let's go. Bring this one up. Wonder if any of the elves will make it to the turn of formats. I think some of them might, actually. Maybe not quite as much as Allosaurus Rider, but some of them might. This is a 2-mana 2/2 bear that whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, one or more at the same time, you make a 1/1 green elf token, but that only triggers once a turn. Thank God. Because if it triggered more than once a turn, this would be much better than Dwynen's Elite. And Dwynen's Elite is already a multi-format all-star for elves. So, really good. Every time you cast an elf for the first time each turn, or make an elf token, you make another one. That's pretty damn strong. And for 7 mana, you just get to anthem your team and give them Death Touch. Again, this probably doesn't make it to Eternal formats because this is no Allosaurus Rider. But God, this thing is scary. This is very much like a kill-on-sight kind of creature, right? Because your opponent just keeps going wider and wider the more idiots they cast, and then eventually they're just going to overrun you. This is like a bad Azuri. And given that we don't have Azuri in Standard, this might be fine for them, given that it's also like a Dwynen's Elite replacement too. So I think if the elf deck is good, this card's probably in it. Plays very well with like, the 2-mana Anthem and stuff as well, so can definitely see that. Eskia. Now this is a cool card. I'm a little worried this is the kind of thing that enables 5-color Poop Soup mid-range. But I also do like playing myself some 5-color Poop Soup mid-range. 3-mana legendary creature god, Vigilance. It's a 1/4, so very, very glad that it dies to basically none of the red removal. It taps for a mana of any color, and other legendary creatures you control have Vigilance, and they also tap for a mana of any color. Kinnan just got a lot better. Kinnan Bondar Prodigy. That card got a lot better. That is in fact legendary. This card is good. It's an expensive mana dork, but the front side of this will allow you to do all kinds of shenanigans, possibly even ramp. The Vigilance might come up importantly sometimes, but the best part of this card is the back of it, which the beautiful part is the front side will help you cast, because the front side of this will probably let you cast some turn 4 Prismatic Bridges. And this card is a lot of fun. Now, I don't know if this is good, but it's exactly the kind of garbage that I will waste all my wild cards on. You're welcome. Prismatic Bridge here at the beginning of your upkeep. Reveal cards on the top of your library until you flip a creature or a planeswalker. Dump it straight onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. Each and every turn. Now, that's pretty clearly fairly powerful. Like, you want to try and scry to set things up to make this good and put something on top that you care about. But between like the World Tree, which is a land we'll see in a little bit, and the front side of this card, this seems like a card you can cast fairly frequently, and sometimes you're just going to high roll an Ugin, or high roll repeated 5-drops and 6-drops and stuff, especially in your World Tree vanilla mid-range Poop Soup deck. I would be a lot more scared of this card if Omnath was still legal. I'm very, very glad that it isn't. Because turn 4 Omnath Fable Passage Prismatic Bridge is terrifying. So thank God we ain't got to deal with that. But this card's really sweet. Really, really sweet. 5-color enchantments are usually pretty sweet. I hope this is good. Because we all know I have an affinity for casting 5-color enchantments in Standard. So fingers crossed. I think the front side is the reason you play it. The back side is just an occasional value engine in your World Tree deck. Eskia's Chariot here is a card I am very excited for. So let's take a look together at this lovely, lovely behemoth. 4-mana 4/4. Legendary artifact vehicle. When it comes into play, it creates 2 of the cutest cats you have ever seen. And when it attacks, it will create a token that is a copy of target token you control. It crews for 4. That's a lot of stats for a 4-mana card. it's another good vehicle that plays very well with the blue one that we looked at earlier on. And more importantly, it has the words "Enter the battlefield" written on it. So I'm going to continue to put this into my exile zone with my good friend Urian. And make many, many 2/2s every time I do so, and crew this thing for 3, and make more 2/2s while I do that. Card's good. Card's aggressively slanted, very good against sweepers, and just a lot of stats when you slam it down. I like it a lot. You'll probably only play a handful because it is legendary. Drawing the second one of this does kind of suck. You can always cash it in for 4 power, however. Like, you can just cast the second one, make 2 more 2/2s, and pass. So it's not even the worst to draw a second one. I think this card's really solid. I think the Chariot will see a fair bit of play. Okie dokie, let's look at Finn real quick. This is a card that caused a bit of a stir. And I'm not sure necessarily for the right reasons. 2 mana 1/3 with Death Touch here. Death Touch, a very common keyword today. Maybe Hooded Blightfang will get there, you never know. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. So that's right, we have the return of poison in Standard, but more importantly, not the return of Infect in Standard, which is what a lot of people heralded this as. This doesn't work with Embercleave the way you want it to. You don't just get to kill your opponent with poison, that's not a thing. But this is... Can I go over the difference between poison and infect? Absolutely. So placing poison counters onto things is a predetermined number. It's how Wizards used to manage poison before the introduction of infect. So you'll see that, for example, on this card, it gives you 2 poison counters. So if a creature you control with Death Touch deals damage, it doesn't matter how much damage it deals, it's just going to give your opponent 2 poison counters, regardless of the amount of damage. Whereas infect means the creature will infect for the amount that is the amount of damage that it has done. Because the creature itself is the thing with the keyword, it cares about the amount of damage done. And you'll also see that infecting, for example, will wither creatures. If you block creatures with infect, the -1/-1 counters stay on your opponent's creature from the damage that it took, because of how infect is worded. Poison doesn't do that. Poison is not doesn't care about your opponent's creatures. If this thing hits your opponent's creature, it won't get a -1/-1 counter. It just won't do anything. You're really welcome, no problem. So interesting to see this effect exist. The fact this thing is legendary kind of sucks. It's good with the other Death Touch payoffs, but I don't think you're going to be winning a lot of games with poison with this one, to be honest. I would be surprised. Cool. So, who has my attention next? We have some draft filler knocking around here. There's a snow version of Gift of Paradise. That might come up in the occasional ramp deck, I guess. Oh, we get to look at one of the most controversial cards in this set next. In Search of Greatness. 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with a CMC equal to 1 plus the highest CMC among other permanents you control, without paying its mana cost. If you don't, you scry 1. Now, I agree with the general crowd that this card is scary. It is... I think we've just been so sick of mana doubling effects and free spells from Wilderness Reclamation and Fires of Invention that we look at a card like this that says, without paying its mana cost, and we go, Wizards, will you... You understand what I mean. I don't actually think it's that good. A lot of the high roll draws from this card are going to be putting a 4-drop into play on turn 4 because you cast a 3-drop after this. Mainly because this card doesn't count itself. It only counts other permanents. So you can put a 1-drop into play for free on turn 3 because you can just pick a land that you control. But it's really hard to get value from this consistently because it has to be converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the highest. Leyline of Abundance is a sick combination with this, but in order for that to be really good, you have to have exactly a 5-drop in your hand. So sure, I'm going to boot up a game of Historic. My opponent's going to put the Leyline into play on turn 0. They're going to cast this on turn 2 and cast a turn 3 Nissa, and I'm going to die. Because that's how ladder works. Why doesn't it count itself? Don't know. Honestly, I feel like this is the kind of card that doesn't count itself. It does actually say in the card there are other permanents you control. And I feel like that was a very conscious choice. I get the feeling that Wizards probably tested this card in the play design team with it counting itself, and it was like too good or busted or whatever, and they like adjusted the wording to fix that. I think. I think there's just a few too many conditions on this. I do agree. I understand what people are saying. It's scary. Like, free spells at this point are scary. But I think this one's pretty well balanced. It's not easy to cast. It's hard to get value turn after turn. A lot of the power level from this will be a case of, like, is there a way, like Leyline of Abundance, to be fair, that I can consistently cheat 5-drops into play? Maybe the deck is built so it's in Historic, for example, where Leyline is legal, where it's 4 of this, 4 Leylines, and then just like 4 Nissa, 4 Gargaroth, 4 Battle Mammoth, just all these 5-drops so that you can consistently as possible cast a 5-drop on turn 3. I don't know, but that doesn't even seem that much better than what you can already do in Historic. Like, you cast Nissa on turn 3 plenty. So I'm not sold on this. I don't think it's quite there for me, but I do understand the fear. So we'll have to wait and see. We get on to Jawn here, God of Winter. Probably not patch. This is taking me significantly longer than I thought it was going to. But I've enjoyed doing it, and people seem to enjoy it. So I'm just gonna. I imagine we're gonna get through this entire set review today, and then it's probably gonna have taken us about 4 hours to do. We'll see. Right, so Jawn here, another double-sided god. Let's take a look at the first side to begin with. 3 mana, 3/3, pretty regular rate. When it attacks, you'll untap each snow permanent you control. Also kind of scary. We've had enough of Wilderness Reclamation effects at this point, but Jawn does have to attack, in fairness. So he can just get blocked and eaten. However, he's going to make you a lot of mana. He's going to play very well with Ancestral Spirit. He's going to play very, very well with anything that you can, welcome to attack Reclamation, exactly. He's easier to interact with, obviously removal spells kill him, which isn't the thing Reclamation had to worry about. He has to attack each time, but that's a very powerful effect. If you can consistently attack with Jawn, you can do a lot of things with that mana. You're basically doubling your mana every turn, and we all know how good that is. So definitely one that is very powerful if you can keep it alive. The backside of Jawn also quite interesting, to be honest. If we take a look at Kaldheim the Rhyme Staff, you'll see this is a Sultai card. When you look at both sides of it, front side is green, back side is blue-black. Legendary Snow Artifact, you can tap to play target snow permanent from your graveyard this turn. If you do, it enters play tapped. I think the backside of this card is pretty good. We've established there is a number of good snow permanents that we are interested in. This can just ramp you by putting snow lands into play. You can untap this with the front side of Jawn. And obviously the joke that everyone will make is that Jawn Snow knows nothing. You're welcome. But yeah, this untaps with the front side. It seems pretty good with all the snow permanents that you can just kind of flip back into play from the bin. I like it. This card seems really powerful on both sides. It seems pretty easy to interact with, but strong. I like Jawn. I think there's some good potential there. Will this enable a combo? I mean, you look at the front side of Jawn and you think, yeah, probably. Like, Reclamation is all I can think of when I look at this untap each snow permanent you control. Just untapping all my lands. Feels like maybe it will. We'll have to wait and see. Alright, so second green god here. Kaldheim. I've actually not seen this one, so let's take a look at it together. Kind of reminds you of Emery. Actually, yeah, that's a good comparison. I don't hate that. That sounds pretty familiar. Probably has some synergy with Paradox Engine for the same reason. So 4 mana 2/4 here. As long as you control 3 or more legendary creatures, it's a 6/6 with Vigilance. There's been a lot of legendary creatures in this set, and this is another reason why Kinnan just looks like it's getting better. 2 mana here, tap it, look at the top 6 cards of your library, reveal a legendary creature from among them and put it into your hand. Why do I feel like you probably want this in Kethis? This feels like the kind of card you just want in Kethis combo. Like, it just shooters up your combo pieces, and it's also just fucking huge. The majority of the time. 4 mana's a bit expensive, but... yeah, that's quite a lot of text. That card's kind of hard to evaluate. I'm not entirely sure how good that is. Top 6 is a lot. Top 6 is a lot of cards, and digging up legendary creatures is definitely nothing to be shy about. In Historic, you even have, like, Captain Sisay as another, like, legendary creature payoff. So there is some shenanigans the front side of this can be doing. What's the back side on it? The Ringheart Crest. I think I've seen this half. 2 mana, chooses a creature type. It taps for green for a creature spell of that type or a legendary creature. Now that's a card. Untapped 2 mana Mana Rock. As long as you're casting a legendary creature off of it. Or even just like an elf, if you pick elves. Yeah, backside of this seems real good. It's obviously like way worse than Mindstone and stuff in Historic. Makes legendary dependent combos much better. I agree. Kethis will love this. Yeah, I think this card's quite good. I think the backside of this is universally pretty applicable, and the front side is going to find you all kinds of card advantage, or just be a 6/6 for 4 mana if you've already got legendary creatures kind of like up and going. This thing seems good. I like this card a lot. Alright, cool. Some more draft filler knocking along here. We get down to Old Growth Troll. One of the first cards spoiled from this set. And honestly, one of the harder ones to evaluate. It's a 3 mana 4/4 with Trample. When it dies, if it was a creature, it will return to the battlefield. It is now a aura enchantment with Enchant Forest. Enchanted Forest has tap to add 2 green and pay 1 and tap it to sacrifice this land. Make a tapped 4/4 green troll warrior with Trample. So this is a ramp spell. When it dies, it does turn your forest into an ancient tomb. That you can then turn back into a 4/4 at some point. I would be more interested in this card, honestly, if Cauldron Familiar was still legal again, because sacking this to Witch's Oven seems like a very real thing in like a mono-green food shell, for example, or even like green-black food, to like stick it on a land, make some more mana, and then turn it back into a 4/4 when you run out of things to do. As it stands, I don't think mono-green food has room for this. That deck's already pretty packed on space. It struggles to find space for a lot of things. This is a very aggressively starting card, though. The problem is, even in like mono-green aggro, this is fighting with Yorvo. Admittedly, this isn't legendary, so maybe you can play some of this and some of Yorvo, and it's probably fine. This is like worse with the Great Henge, though, I guess. Obviously conflicts with like Lovestruck Beast and stuff too. I think this card isn't bad by any stretch, but I'm struggling to find a home for it, at least until maybe like after rotation, where some of its direct competition gets out of the way and lets it kind of shine. But definitely a very cool and unique card. I just think it's kind of hard to find a deck that really wants it, which is kind of a shame. Okie dokie. So let's take a look at Realm Walker. This card is very good, I think. It's another one for the Collected Company shells that are really going to enjoy a card like this. 3 mana, 2/3 Changeling. It's everything. It's every creature type for all those tribal decks that care about it. When it enters the battlefield, you've got to pick a creature type. You can look at the top card of your library at any time and cast creatures of the chosen type from the top of your library. Bant Spirit's entirely possible a deck that wants this, but honestly, I think most of the tribal company decks are just going to want this. It is a raw card advantage engine. You just get to look at the top card of your library and do the Vivian thing. Just cast creatures off the top as long as they match the same creature type. I think this card's really solid. I think it'll be really good in standard elves as well. I think standard elves will probably benefit from just being able to churn through its library and dump cheap 1 mana, 2 mana creatures into play, make some more 1/1s with that new Dwynen's Elite. Seems like a very powerful card that you can company into as well. And obviously the company deck's just very full of creatures, so this plays very well with that. Provides you some card advantage in those kind of shells. I like it. Realm Walker seems like a good one to me. Some more draft filler here. I'm going to mention Sculptor of Winter real quick. Hey Jason, how you doing? Hopefully you're having a lovely day today. Not going to bring this one up to talk about it very much, but it's important to note there is a Snow Mana Dork, which is worth knowing. You like the Troll? Okay. I like it a lot. I think the card's very sweet. I just think it's kind of hard to fit into a deck just now. Snow Mana Dork does exist. Definitely worth talking about. Let's look at Toski real quick. We've got Toski here, Bearer of Secrets, everyone's favourite legendary squirrel. 4 mana 1/1, cannot be countered. Indestructible. It has to attack every single combat if it can, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. This card is really sweet. Legendary Squirrel is pretty badass. Would you look at that? Patch, thank you very much for your resubscription. It's 10 months now. You insane. Thank you for your support, buddy. I really, really appreciate that. It means a lot. EDH bait? I think largely EDH bait outside of one specific circumstance, and that is, I think this card is probably pretty reasonable in Winota shells. I think this is not a bad one to be toying around with Winota, which I don't hate. I definitely don't hate that, so could see some Winota shells playing some Toski. I think the card's a bit expensive otherwise. 4 mana 1/1 is not great. You can block this thing even if you can't kill it or counter it. Might be good in Winota shells, but I think that's the only place I really kind of see it finding a constructed home, at least in my opinion. Then we got the lovely mainstay here, Tyvar Kell. Let's take a look at the mono-green Planeswalker that is Elf Trial based. Just going to slap enchantments on him. That works too. That definitely works too. So, 4 mana Planeswalker here. Passive ability that elves you control tap for a black. That's pretty good. Turning all your creatures into mana dorks, especially when we've already looked at elves and they're pretty capable of going wide. Seems good to me. +1 here puts a +1/+1 counter onto up to 1 target elf. You untap it and it gains Death Touch. Sure. Reasonable +1. 0 makes a token. Well, I like that. The token's not quite as big and powerful as a Gideon Ally Zendikar token, but we've definitely realised in the past that 4 mana Planeswalkers with a 0 that makes blockers to defend it, it's not bad. It's normally a pretty good piece of text. -6 on this one, you get an emblem whenever you cast an elf spell. It gains haste and you draw 2. You are probably never beating that. You're probably beating that with the same regularity that you're beating Chandra Torture Defiance or Ral Is It Viceroy Ultimates, because they're all very similar. It's like, whenever you do X thing, do X. If this thing ultimates, you probably die. I think the thing that puts me off of Tyvar just a little bit, he really can't generate any advantage by himself. He can make elves in play a bit bigger. I'm annoyed that he only gives them Death Touch until the end of your turn. They really should give him Death Touch until the end of your opponent's turn. I think that would be a lot better. But it does make blockers to protect itself, unfortunately not while going up in loyalty. Mana tap ability really good. Elf Ball is definitely a consideration for a card like this. This is also the kind of thing that plays pretty well with like Realm Walker and stuff like that we were just looking at. I think Tyvar is very powerful. And a large part of whether this card is good enough will largely come down to how creature-centric Elves wants to be. If it wants to be all about Realm Walker, to be able to flip creatures off the top of your library, this and the Saga, well, they just don't make the cut most of the time. But if Elves is just like a mid-range deck that doesn't really care about card types, it's probably pretty darn good. I can definitely see you wanting some Tyvars. Okie dokie. We get on to the last green card of the set. I think, honestly, my favourite. Vorinclex. Monstrous Raider. Spoiler alert for anyone who wasn't aware that we have Phyrexians on Kaldheim. We do. We have Vorinclex, who has somehow made his way over here. We don't know quite how yet. But this card is really good. What is a Phyrexian? That's a steep question. The Phyrexian are a race of, I think Patchworth puts it the best way, they are the OG bad guys. From the realms of New Phyrexia, I don't really have... I'd have to sit here and give you a lecture, I think, on Phyrexia and how it all came about and completion and how they split off into factions. It was a lot of early lore in Magic's history. They are possibly the most written about race in Magic's history, honestly. They are the big bads. They are very much some OG bad guys. I highly suggest taking a bit of time just to look into the Phyrexian race if you are particularly interested, because it's one of the things that has me the most excited about Kaldheim is that the guys that killed Mirrodin, that is probably the way of putting it, yeah. They are nasty, evil motherfuckers, and we haven't seen them. That's fine. I'm not being derogatory in any sense at all. Like, there's no harm in not knowing. But I was super excited for this myself, because we've not seen the Phyrexians in quite some time. And Vorinclex somehow being on Kaldheim is a thing I'm really looking forward to an explanation for. It really upset me this one got leaked, because the actual spoiler stream that Wizards put out, where they revealed this thing at the very end in its Phyrexian text, I thought it was the best way of showcasing this card and leaving all the mystery there about what he's getting there. I thought it was such a good reveal, and they really fucked it. Kind of right that they have different goals. The Phyrexians are all about everyone being unified and living by set rules and infecting those who disagree until they are converted and believe in the same things that they do, which is where some of the problem came from, because they split off into they were infected by coloured mana and they started having different beliefs about what perfect actually meant, which caused some internal civil wars and the leaders of the Phyrexians to differ on what completion was. There's a lot to it, I'm afraid, like a whole lot to it. But definitely like Eldrazi level of big bad. Like, yeah, it's a bit too deep to glaze over for sure, but if we're talking like level of villain, we are talking Eldrazi levels of big bad. They really are iconic Magic villains, so I'm super excited to see Vorinclex. More importantly, this card is also really, really good, and people haven't realised how good this thing is yet. 6 mana, 6/6 with trample and haste. Already really solid. This thing is going to hit you like a truck. If you would put one or more counters onto a permanent or player, you put twice that many there instead. This is obviously a callback to Poison, which is the Phyrexian mechanic, Phyrexian mana. That kind of thing obviously plays very well with Poison, because you just double up Poison and kill people. But more importantly, whenever you cast a Planeswalker with this thing in play, it's going to have double the loyalty counters. Do you know how ridiculous it is to cast a Planeswalker and ultimate it immediately? This is basically a hasty 6/6 doubling season, which is terrifying. Then it has more text on it because it's a green card. If an opponent would put one or more counters onto a permanent or player, they put half that many on there instead, rounded down. This is also a problem that people have missed. This turns every saga into a blank piece of cardboard. You cannot tick up your saga. if there is a Vorinclex in play, the counter just doesn't go on it. This thing is insane. It doubles all your counters, it turns off half of your opponent's deck, and even when none of those things are relevant, it hits you for 6 every turn. So many people are going to Genesis Ultimatum into this card and a Planeswalker, and ultimate the Planeswalker. Like, you are going to die. Like, I I can't put this any other way. You are dead. I believe it affects Planeswalkers entering the battlefield, Toothmaker, to my knowledge, based on the way that it is worded. It's worded the same way as Doubling Season, which means you'll be able to ultimate them the same time they come in. You are dead. HowlingMines 2020. Write it on a t-shirt. Get that merch out there. I mean it. This card is bananas. It is $40 on TCG Player for a reason. It's good. Vorinclex, good. I would buy this card. It's solid. I appreciate it. I think Vorinclex is great. I could be wrong about the Doubling Season thing, but I'm pretty sure it's worded in the way that works. If I am wrong, this card's obviously kind of a little bit worse, but it's still just insane. Don't worry about it. You won't regret it. More importantly, there are like tons of art styles on this, and not only is the showcase frame kind of gorgeous, but this Phyrexian art. Anyone who cares about original Phyrexian lore and is like into the language, look at that. Look at that card. It's stunning. More importantly, you can get this skin in Arena by entering the next Arena Open. So if you want the Phyrexian version, you can get it in Arena for free by entering the Arena Open, which is really cool. Okay, cool. So that brings us on to the end of green.